So, okay, cool. So I think we can start. So today I want to talk about 5 different topics with you. And I can quickly go through the topics. Okay, so the first topic I love to talk about is how the life look like for you in America, because I grew up in China, so it's very different experience. The second topic is that what's your understanding about Christianity and Christian? Because I grew up in a non-religious family, so I'm curious about how that looks like. The third one is something I think about in the past 2 or 3 years is how you understand love, because love not necessarily is romantic love, right? Brotherly love and family love, all those things, and also your love about God, about the world, is also love. So I think it's something I talk about. The next one is about AI, because right, not everyone is talking about AI, so I think that also students use a lot of AI, maybe do homework or something like that. So I'm interested to know that. And the last topic is it's not so serious. It's more like a fun one. I prepare some small questions, give you a scenario. You can see which options you want to choose. Well, you can explain it a little bit, just like yeah, how that sounds.
Sounds good. I looked at the 20 questions. Those are not small questions. Those are societal dilemmas.
But
Anyway.
it's very interesting, right?
Yes. Okay. That will be fun.
Yeah. So the first topic is how the life looks like in America. So the first question, we start from your childhood. So how the childhood looks like. Because, for example, in China, I know a lot of children, parents will, ask them to go to different clubs, learn guitar, learn dancing, learn piano on their weekends. So the calendar can be really full back in China. I'm curious, how's your childhood?
Okay. Well, that makes me think of elementary school. So I guess I'll talk about elementary school. I grew up in Eastern Washington. So I grew up in the Tri-Cities. That's different than the culture in Seattle. So keep that in mind.
When you say difference, what's the biggest difference you think?
The biggest difference. Well, part of it is because it's like everything is different. You have different types of people. You have different businesses and ways of building up the community. The business culture is even a little bit different of the way you would network with someone in Seattle versus the Tri-Cities. And I would say there's more agriculture in the Eastern Washington. Yeah, those are just some of the ways. And then, of course, I lived in a suburban area growing up, and we were 5 minutes away from everything. So we could drive 5 minutes to go to the grocery store, the library, school. My middle school was 5 minutes drive away. So
you will never be late for school.
Oh, I was late sometimes, but in middle school, sometimes I was late, but I had a 0 hour. Well, actually, I think most of the time I was on time. I had a 0 hour class that I went to at 6:45.
6:45 in middle school.
That's
pretty early.
That was because I wanted to do jazz band.
Oh, okay.
That was middle school though. In elementary school, I would have gone to a school that was about 7 minutes drive away, but I was in a gifted program. I took an aptitude test, and then they placed me in it. So I was in a group of about 25 students, and I started in 3rd grade through 5th grade. And so I took the school bus every day. We would go to the school that I would be going to, and then I took a shuttle bus to the one school that I was actually going to, called Vista Elementary. And then so at the elementary school, I had 3 teachers, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers of this program. We would often, they would have a wacky Wednesday. So on Wednesdays we would go to one classroom and we would learn something. So one of them I think I learned some like might have been sign language or something I learned in one class. In one class I learned card games. I remember one of them I learned ciphers.
Cipher in elementary school?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like codes. It was fun. Things like that. And then we had another, we called it the Coggle. Because this was COG. It was called COG, Kennewick Opportunities for the Gifted. And we had a COG library, just another one. And then it was just this little, in another portable. We had some bookshelves and then a lot of craft supplies in another classroom. So I remember there was one day that we got to have a free-for-all like craft day. We didn't have anything to do. So we went and just did some creative stuff. But so that was my elementary school life.
It sounds very, very happy.
Very happy, very creative. So I would well, I don't remember when I would get up, but I would get up, get on the school bus, go to school, and then learn, and then at recess I would run around. And
I'm curious about, so will your parents hope you get, let's say, the first place in the examination of a class? Do your parents have such expectation?
That is a good question. So I would say my parents prioritized other things. It might have come from the way they grew up, but my dad prioritized probably teaching me, like in growing me up in the way I should go, rather than getting like high marks on things. And I will say I was not very good at following directions. In elementary school, I wouldn't read the directions all the time. I remember in 5th grade, I had a D in math, but I was very smart at math. I just didn't always read the instructions on the worksheets. And so I wouldn't always fill them out all the way and I would forget to turn them in. And so I remember talking with we had parent-teacher conferences and I talked to my parents, with my parents and my teacher, and then we discussed that. And they're like, is she going to be okay for middle school? And my teacher was like, yeah, she's fine. She just needs to read the instructions better. But yeah, so I would say the way my parents approached it, I would say the way my dad approached it is, he basically would say like, do your best, and like that's what I expect from you, is do the best you can, and then if you need more help, then we'll see what we can do.
For example,
and then the question is, what's the best?
Well,
what's your best?
Yeah, that's a question. But the question I want to ask is that, for example, will your parents have such expectations, saying, hey, I hope when you grow up, you can went to Stanford, you can go into Harvard, you can went to the top universities in the States. Have they have such expectation, or have you feel such a little bit pressure on you?
I honestly did not feel that pressure. I feel like if I ever put pressure on myself, it was because of me. I was putting pressure on myself.
Rather than came from parents.
Yeah. Part of it is because my dad went to he's gone to a community college and he went to a state college. And my mom also went to a state college. My mom went to school to be a teacher, and my dad got a business degree. And I would say part of it had to do with the fact that, like, my dad would teach me a lot of these things, but I think a lot of the times maybe he didn't have a lot of the technical knowledge that someone, like, let's say your parents knew a lot about Stanford and wanted you to go there. They would research and they would say, I want my kid to go there. Or maybe they have before, maybe they know the ins and outs. My parents didn't know the ins and outs. And so they did what they could. But if that was something I wanted to do, then I would have had to come up with that at a young age, and I would have had to push myself all the way there.
I got you. So which means that when you grow up in such environment, you are kind of like more self-driving.
Yeah.
You need to say, hey, I want to go to this destination. And from here, from where you are now to where you want to go, you need to figure out the path by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that such experience will help you become a more independent person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds really good. Then how about high school? Is high school very pressure or is still okay?
Well, we did skip middle school. Do you want me to talk about middle school?
Yeah, sure.
Middle school, I didn't think a lot about college. I still didn't know. I feel like a lot of students, at least where I was growing up, they don't think about college sometimes until they get within a year or two of graduating.
That's interesting. So which means that in middle school, kids around you didn't think about too much about college. How about you? Have you thought about college?
I thought about it. I didn't know where I would be going, but sometimes I'd be like, what am I gonna do when I grow up? And so
Have you figured out now?
I maybe.
Okay.
I have somewhat of an idea, but
Mhm.
I don't know for sure.
Mhm.
I remember my parents growing up. I would just notice I love doing this or I love doing that. I love building with Legos. I love creating things,
Mhm.
using crafts. I would make treasure hunts, doing all of these little creative things. My parents encouraged me. They're like, "Hey, that sounds like an engineer. You could be an engineer." So I was like, "Oh yeah." I didn't really know anything else, but I was like, "That would be awesome." And then in middle school and the beginning of high school, I got scared away from engineering because I looked and the engineering fields, there's so many. And I got scared because I was like, how do I know what's the best one for me? And I'm still learning from that experience, but I know that I will eventually figure out where the best place for me is. And it really is not just what I've been realizing within the last year is it is not just about, oh, what industry do I want to go to? It's also very much about what is the environment of the company that I'm going to be working for, or even the department. I think that matters even more than just what am I doing.
Yeah, I agree because especially for a big organization, each department or even each team, they can have very different environment, right? And that will hugely influence how you feel for that job. If people, the colleagues is good, you have a good experience. It's even like a college, right? If you have people think you like around you, have a good relationship with them, then you will love this college as well. If that's worse, if you don't have good experience with people around you, well, even if you go to one of the best university, I assume it won't be so pleasurable, I think. Yeah. So sounds like that middle school is a time of like exploration for you, right? You have some kind of sense. I want to go to the direction of engineer, not a singer, not a not a dancer, something like that, right? But you still try to figure out what specific you are looking for, right?
I would say I started doing that in high school.
Mm-hmm.
In middle school, I was more focused on my studies and more just like I got real excited about school. So, I mean, I started at algebra in 6th grade, I think. And so, I was
Like it?
I didn't like it at first. Geometry was my favorite.
Uh-huh.
But eventually, when I learned what f of x meant, I was so excited. I was like, I finally understand. It's so confusing, but anyway.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I mean, I continued on my math, and I was doing music as well. I just grew up with a very musical family. We all sing.
Okay, okay. Do
Yeah.
you play any instrument?
Not currently, but I played the clarinet in middle school. I played the violin in 5th grade, and then I switched. And then,
Singing.
Huh?
Then switch to sing.
Singing?
Mhm.
Oh, I grew up singing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Family tradition.
Family tradition, singing at church, and then like now we will just burst into song when we're happy, or like you hear people singing. My house is pretty quiet unless we're arguing or singing. So
Okay, interesting. But I agree. I think that humans, no matter you are introvert or extrovert, you must have some way to express yourself, especially emotions. I think music is one of the best way. I feel all the arts, literature, music, even architecture, when you build something, you also try to express something from internal of your world. Oh, you can go ahead.
yes, yes, I can really resonate with that. I feel like I don't want to separate engineering from creativity, or whatever I will be working in with creativity
Mhm.
and excitement. Um, because just like how you're describing, I want to put that creativity and that spark and that
Mhm.
drive while I'm making something. Even if I'm making like a gear or something, I want to find something that I can get excited about it. I want to put myself in a frame of reference because I can choose how I feel about it, but I can't always choose what I'm doing.
Right,
But
right. You must have some passion, and that making you feel alive, and that make you feel you.
why does it do that?
Well, I think that's some
Happy
special.
birthday.
No, it's some special.
Celebrate. I'm trying to make it trigger.
So, no, it's actually sometimes triggered by your gesture.
Yeah.
I don't know. It triggers sometimes. For example, sometimes when you do this, it has a thumbs up. It may have, yeah, something like that.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, sorry.
Let's go to high school. So how for example, how do your schedule looks like when you get go to school,
Oh.
finish school in high school? It's very intense, pressure.
I made it intense. I would often take on as much as I possibly could, and then because like I said, my parents weren't the one putting pressure on me, but I would often take on a lot. Like for example, um so in high school, I'll start with ninth grade and then I can compare it to 12th grade. So in ninth grade, that was my first year. I really wanted to do band because I did jazz band in middle school and it was so fun. I loved it. Something about Delta, my high school, is that it's a small public high school made out of all three school districts that are in the Tri-Cities. And so it's very much like a mesh of the entire Tri-Cities, which is amazing. I love that.
It's very diverse, I guess.
I would say, I mean, in some ways, I mean, the Tri-Cities doesn't have a lot of like, it's not the same kind of diversity as Seattle, but it
Do you
is.
get a lot of international students?
No, no.
Everyone is local, huh?
So I would say pretty local. I would say 40%, 40 or 50% of people were Latino, and then the other part were like probably Caucasian, and then a few outliers, like I had a few Asian friends as well, East Asian friends. I had maybe one Indian friend, and then a few African American friends as well. So yeah.
Oh, true.
Mhm. I forgot what I was saying.
Just now you say you will start from ninth grade.
That's right. So in ninth grade, so I wanted to do band. So I did jazz band at my home high school at 6:45. No, yeah, it was 6:45. Still 6:45. So I would take the transit bus to Southridge High School and do my jazz band, and then I would take the school bus to Delta. And that was before Delta, so it worked out just fine. And then and that was when I started learning saxophone. It was kind of scary. It was intense. Well, not really scary. It was just intense because I was sitting there with the saxophone and I was like, the fingerings are similar to clarinet, but I don't know how. And so
I have similar feeling when I play guitar now. I feel, oh, why my finger is not so flexible?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So then I would go to Delta, and Delta was also very fun in ninth grade. They do a lot of projects. It's very project based at that school, and so I really enjoyed myself. Um, and I was getting used to high school, you know. I really enjoyed the time.
So, for example, when you get up,
Mhm.
what's the time you get up from bed?
Probably 5:45.
5:45, and you arrive school at
6:45.
6:45. So the class start at 6:45, or
Yeah. Well, 5:45 is like cutting it close because I need to walk to the bus stop. I need to walk like half a mile to the bus stop. So I would probably, well, for a bit I walked to the bus stop, but then my mom was like, it's in the dark. I don't like that. And so one of the seniors picked me up from school, and it's funny, all these memories are coming back as I as I relay this, but the seniors, there were 7 seniors in band that year, and some of them were for the marching band. They really positively impacted me. I would say usually when I'm in my first year of a program, it's like the older people really inspire me.
yeah, of course.
Yeah. And so I was super inspired by them. So Beck would pick me up. And so she would drive. She was from Pasco. She would drive. She wanted to go to Southridge. And she was invested. And so she would drive. She would pick me up. Sometimes I would just wake up when she got there, and so I would like run and pack.
And then the message, sorry, I will run a little bit late.
Yeah, she would park in front of my house and then she'd beep, and I'd be like, no. Yeah. It might have been because sometimes I would stay up late reading. I loved reading as a kid. I read so much.
Do you want to write a novel someday?
I don't
Because I feel-
know if I can put all of that. It seems like a lot.
Because when you tell those stories, itself is a story. It's the only difference is just verbal or you write it down,
It's true.
right? After, if imagine all the story you told, if we put it into, words, it's kind of like a small novel.
You're right. And growing up, my dad would tuck me in when I was little, and I would ask him to tell me stories. So storytelling is definitely in my culture. I would say the culture of my family.
And everyone love listen to stories.
It's true. I love it. I love telling stories and listening to stories.
Go back to high school.
Yes. Okay, so they really inspired me. So we'd go to jazz band, and I'd be like, wow, they're so good at this, and okay, I'm gonna learn. And I loved my band director. His name was Philip Simpson, and he was the one band and orchestra director from 1999 till 2020.
30 years.
Yeah. Before that, I think he might have been at Pasco High School. But he was a great band director. He was really amazing. And so he was pretty inspiring as well. And so I would go to jazz, and then I would go to Delta. And I also really loved Delta because the teachers they knew you. They would have a meeting. I only learned this at the end of my schooling with them, but they would have a meeting, probably once a quarter or once a trimester, to discuss every student and say, okay, how about this student? Are they doing well? Is there anything we can do to support them? They knew every student by name. I love that. That's so beautiful. I felt very supported there. And so I would go to Delta, and then I would take the bus back to Southridge because I wanted to do marching band. I really wanted to do marching band. And so I did that as well. And I played the clarinet in marching band. The first week, the school bus took so long that when I got there, they were ending practice. And this was my first experience there. That was like one of my first days of class. And I was so sad that I started to cry.
You are 12, 13?
No, I probably, actually, I don't know. I don't always have a good time with remembering what age I was at certain.
Yeah, because when we used to cry, I'm thinking about how old
I
you
didn't
are.
like sob. I was just holding back tears. I was like, because to me, I was like, is it gonna be like this every time I want to go to marching bands? Because the school bus took an hour and a half to get home because the bus driver was getting used to the new route, which is understandable. And so that first day I was like holding back tears because I put my clarinet together before I got off the bus, and I ran off the bus, and then everyone was coming back, and I was like, oh, I missed it. So
Yeah, I can feel
but
how
yeah,
disappointed you are.
yeah, but thankfully the bus times got shorter. So I was able to make it to like the last half of practice usually.
What time when the practice start and when it ends?
Well, let me try to remember. School would end at 3 or 3:30 at Delta. I think it ended at 3. And then I would take the bus, and I think I would get to Southridge at like 4, and practice would end at 4:30, I think.
Oh, okay, 4:30.
I probably had the wrong
Okay, no worries,
time.
but basically 4, 5, something like that.
Something like that.
And then after that, what you do?
After that, mm, I would usually take the bus home, the transit bus home, and I'd walk from the bus stop like half a mile, and then I would go do my homework and read. I also had I worked on RPG Maker games for fun. I liked creating those.
I'm doing that at weekends.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do you know there's kind of game like visual novel game?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, basically the game is like PowerPoint, and you watch the story. At a certain point, you are given options A, B, and you choose different options. So the story go into different direction.
That's cool.
Yeah, you can continue.
That's awesome. So I started learning that as well. We have a basement at our house, and so we had this old cube monitor or I don't know what you call it, but one of those older displays, and we had this old PC. We still have it. It was pretty loud.
You mean
the fan was very loud.
Yeah, I get what you mean. And it's very thick, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
very heavy.
I know what you are talking about.
Yeah, and so I would.
You can see that in museum.
That's funny. I would go downstairs, turn it on, and then I would hear it like.
Yeah, it's
I
like a
would
machine.
hear it boot on, like boot up, and it
know.
had this high pitched sound when it's turning on, and this old computer keyboard we had, and so I would turn on the thing, and it was just start. The fan is very loud.
Yeah.
So anyway, that and Roller Coaster Tycoon, I love that game as well. So I would often go downstairs. Well, not often, like when I get inspired, like probably at least once a week. But I would go down there, and then I would boot up the computer, set it up, and then I would work on different projects and until my hands got too cold because it was cold down there. And then I would be sitting there like, oh boy. And then I would like sit there and put a blanket over my hands and keep working or something. I don't know. That and my parents let me have 30 minutes of computer time
every time.
A day.
So you need to do everything in 30 minutes. It's really short, huh?
Yeah. So a lot of times I would try to get longer, but then I would get in trouble. Or they would use that to discipline us. So they would say, "Oh, you didn't obey me. Like you didn't like respect my authority. So like we're gonna take some computer time away, or you don't get any." So yeah, that's a little fun. We had these little timers that we would use. So.
Do you feel pressure when the timer is done?
Yes, I'm like, I want to play more, you know.
I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I understand the feeling because similarly, when I in high school that my parents also have similar, strategy and maybe 1 hour, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And after that, when you go to bed,
Well, I think my parents wanted me to go to bed at 9.
9 p.m.
Probably.
for whole high school.
No, that was probably middle school that it was 9 p.m.
Uh-huh.
But I think high school they started saying 10 p.m. So I think it was 10 p.m. was my bedtime. I don't remember how often I actually kept that though, because often I would stay up late reading. So
I understand.
I just liked reading novels.
I even now I'm still like reading novels.
That's cool.
My high school is very different as your schedule. I arrive at the classroom at 7 a.m. We have like a morning session, reading, not you reading with your eyes. I mean, speak it out.
Okay.
Like article, right? Which is well written, like in your literature class or
Yeah.
English class,
Yeah.
you read it out and try to recite it.
Yes.
Recite the passage, things like that. Then we have a breakfast. Then the class start maybe at 8 a.m. Then we finish class at about 12. Then go for lunch. And then the class start at 2 p.m.
This is elementary school?
High school.
High school, okay.
Yeah. Then after your lunch break, we start at about 2 p.m. Then finish at about 6, something like that. Then you go for your dinner. Then you go back to class, self-study, do your homework. Then we start our class at about 7:30 p.m. Then finish at about 9:30 or 10 p.m. Then my parents, my dad will pick me up from high school. Then I go back home, have an extra dinner because it's too late.
Yeah.
Then do my homework. Most of the time I sleep after 12. That's my high school. And moreover, we don't have weekends. We every 2 weeks we have 1 day off. So for example, this week we don't have weekends. We skip the weekends. We have our class. In next week we finish class maybe at I think that maybe at Saturday afternoon, something like that. Then we need to go back on Sunday night. So basically every 2 weeks we have about 1 or 2 days off. That's my 3 years high school.
Interesting.
Very, very different, huh?
Yeah.
So you can imagine it's very different experience. So I feel really, really, envy you have such, you can go to bed and you can, do reading. I remember clearly at that time I can only read before I go to sleep, maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. Yeah. Very different experience, right?
Yeah.
Then how about college? You have spent about 2 years, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm a sophomore now, studying mechanical engineering.
Let's
Speaking
see.
to the camera. Okay.
Let's say whether 10 years later you
Oh,
become a mechanical.
I'll see what kind of thing I will have done.
So for example, what's the biggest difference you think between college and high school?
All the guardrails are taken away in college.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like. So
More freedom, huh? More
kind
options.
of. I still feel as free as I did in high school.
Yeah, maybe
my
well,
parents gave me a lot of freedom and I had to choose.
yeah.
I mean they did set boundaries, but like for example, like if like there was a certain point, like probably my last year of high school, where it's like if I was staying up late reading or something and they came into my room, they're like, go to bed. I was like, okay. And then I didn't go to bed. Then they're
I
like,
understand.
okay, well, your choice,
Very respectful, huh? Respectful.
Yeah, I would say my parents are pretty respectful, and I think they were also, my dad was trying to treat me appropriate based on my age. So like earlier in my schooling he would say like put his foot down more, but he rarely puts his foot down with me, probably because I've just learned to respect him. And my mom. Like, disrespecting my parents is a big deal in my house. That's come up before. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. And
Yeah.
but how to define this disrespecting?
Respect.
Yeah, disrespect. What kind of behavior can be regarded as disrespect?
I think it has less to do with the behavior and it has more to do with the heart. Because
Your
I can obey my parents with a sneer on my face. I can obey my parents. I can do what they say. Like, for example, if my parents tell me sit down and I sit down, but I say I'm standing inside, like that's
I get your point.
Yeah.
Your face show you are not willing to agree with, although your body do what they ask you to do. I get you. I get you.
yes. Yeah, and as a kid, you just, at least me, I was not super good at lying, you know, and my parents can tell, like my grandma could tell too, like when I'm angry or not, and so
Yeah.
they
Because
were
they are used to at your age as well, so they know. But you're nice, they know because they do the same thing, years ago, decades
Yes.
ago. Yeah, I think that's very interesting because when I went to college, I get a lot of control about my own life, right? Because previously a lot of things is all oriented with study. Well, college is still about study, but I can choose who I make friends with, right? Because in high school, most of the time, I assume you make friends with your classmates.
Yeah.
Right. But at college, you began to meet people from different major, different, you are a freshman, they may be senior or master. So yeah, that's, except this part, anything else you feel difference or
Well, yeah,
like
living
it?
away from home, I think.
Loneliness.
Well, I wasn't very lonely. I did, like my first year, I missed my dad's hugs.
I
But
understand.
um and I would say though I met a lot of good friends, but I was still learning how to have friendship and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
For a while growing up, I just thought that if someone was friendly with me, then I should be friends with them. And in particular, I thought if someone is a Christian and is friendly, then I should be friends with them. Because I wanted a Christian friend throughout public high school. And sometimes you don't find Christian friends in public high schools because often parents would take their children and homeschool them or
Okay.
would go to a private Christian school. And so I was in public school the whole time and I couldn't always find those people. So,
I get you.
but
Yeah, because I agree that because if you have the same belief, it's easier for you to understand each other in a lot of respects, in a lot of aspects, right? About life, about a lot of things happening, about relationship. I agree.
yeah.
Yeah. If it's also similar like a culture, right? If you came from the same culture background, for example, if you meet someone here from Eastern Washington or Tri-City, maybe naturally you will have more connection with each other. I can assume that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, I think that another good part is that if you meet someone from different background, their mindset is very different as yours. So sometimes it can give you extra inspiration because you may never think the way they think. So yeah, but I agree. As long as you said that if you can feel the kindness from this person, I think that that may be the most important thing because yeah, all the love they have on you, on the world. I think it's a very important thing.
Yeah. I agree. The shared kindness is very important, and seeing the good in people. And I feel like it really depends too. The way my parents taught me. Also, do we need to move to the next question?
That's what I'm thinking.
We will keep going forever.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. And actually, we already mentioned a little bit about that. So just now we talk about the